Welcome back to the Look Up Podcast. This is your host, Roman Downing.
And Alani Downing.
We're excited.
We're excited. I thought I'd give it a try to copy how you intro yourself and woo, get it going. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho, can you believe it's episode 10? 10. We've now entered the
10.
double digits. We've now done
Now we're
10
veterans.
episodes. We must be pros at this
We're
point.
pros.
Pretty much.
We got everything down.
We go
pat.
from amateur to pro now that we're in the
Now
double
we're at
digits.
10. That's right.
What a
And
journey it's been, huh?
I know it's been very interesting.
It's been like not as difficult, I guess, that I thought it was going to be, and not as scary as I thought it was going to be. And honestly, I think it's been a lot more rewarding than I figured it was going to be, but not
Really?
financially. Not financially. It's not there yet. The sponsorships, being a Christian podcast, guys, But anyways, it hasn't been all the way there yet, but I feel like it's been very rewarding for like myself,
Explain.
I feel like I've been able to just express myself a little bit more freely. I mean, I'm not all the way like where I would like to be, but
Right.
compared to where I was like in January, you know how I was doing those video diaries? So I started a video diary in my phone where I just like record myself. For those of you who are listening and don't know, I record myself and I'm like, hey, Alani, this is what you've done today. This is what's going on. And like I did that in January because I really wanted a lot of stuff to change for me in my life because I was like super, super depressed. And then now coming fast forward, we're now in May. And it's been like, I feel like I'm very different. Like I feel like a different person almost, from just 4 months ago,
Right.
5 months ago, whatever. Isn't that crazy? I just feel like I'm more myself. Like my voice is even a little bit different.
Right.
I think because at the time, because like you tend to like copy the people that are around you. My voice even sounded like people that I was around at that time. And
Yep.
like, I think I'm now kind of coming back to like maybe, or truly not maybe, who I actually am, not trying to be someone else. And I think
Right.
it's been through a lot of like the talks that we've had on obviously the podcast, but like off of the podcast in preparation for the podcast, like all of that kind of stuff. And then obviously it's been helping me grow more in my faith, since obviously that's what we talk about. But not only that, but it's just been something that I've been intentional
Right.
about doing every day. So I don't know. I just find it very rewarding
Right.
for me. What about you? What do you think? I mean,
Yeah.
10 episodes in.
I think the number one thing that I've learned is that it's never too late. I mean, Nick.
Oh my gosh, I was going to say that. I was literally going to say that. I was brushing my hair right before this podcast and I was like, I'm ready to go. Woohoo. And I'm like, I know what I'm going to talk about. I didn't bring it up, but you did.
This is what happens when you give her coffee, y'all.
Woo!
we need to get Alani a coffee deal. We need to get her a coffee deal.
That would be amazing.
But yeah, talk about that. I think that's good. You said you were about to bring it up.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
exactly what you were about
I
to
was
bring
really
up.
going to say, like,
Yeah.
if you want to start a podcast, go for it. If you want to leave a business that you were so dedicated to for the past 5 years and you feel like you're stuck in it, leave it and go do something else. If you want to quit your job because you're so miserable and crying, then quit it. Because if you want to stop being friends with someone who's been really actually not your friend and who's been hurting your feelings,
Toxic.
leave them.
Yeah.
If you want to, and I'm bringing up all instances in my own life because that's what I was thinking about, like when I was like, oh, let's talk about like
And it might not be
our
toxic.
podcast.
It might not be toxic for you. I mean, it might not be toxic for them, but maybe it's toxic for you.
Right. And it's like, maybe it's time to rebuild that relationship with your family again. If you want to, then go for it. And basically what I was thinking, like, no circumstance in life really ever is 100% permanent. You can
Right.
always change it. Life is always moving and growing and, you're never stuck. And it's like, the last thing that I want to do is get to the end of my life in my deathbed, think, I wish I would have, or I really should have just taken that chance,
Or I lived my life for someone else.
Yes, or I live my life because of what someone else said.
Over someone else's thoughts, influence, judgment, whatever it might be. And then at the end of the day, then was it ever really your life?
No. If you're
Right.
like, for me, being so afraid of what my family was going to think,
Yeah.
being so afraid of what all the quote unquote friends I had in my life were going to think of me.
The only judgment you should fear is God's.
Exactly. And it's like, I think we were all given that desire in our heart for a reason, because that's where we can really shine and glorify him. Maybe I wasn't, well, I know I wasn't, glorifying him in like actions I was doing before. Was never really learning about him or trying to learn about him or
No.
any of that. And it's because I decided to like step out in faith. And it's kind of what I put in my story yesterday, because I was just kind of thinking like, wow, we released 9 episodes. We're about to release the 10th one. And I was like, when it comes to walking in that faith, it can be scary because obviously you don't know what's going to happen next. And it can be difficult because, the waters aren't always calm. It's like rocky and stuff and moving because it's like you don't know what's going to happen next. But I think like just staying through and following through that obedience, the blessings that are on the other side of that, like obviously for yourself, but also for others,
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Even if this podcast touched one person,
That's all that.
that's all I think that's like, it's so
I think a lot of
important.
people. Let me stop saying I think a lot of people, but I think I heard this
It's
quote,
your favorite thing to say.
This quote. That's my quote. That's my thing.
Even if we're talking with just me and him, and
I
he
think
wants
a
to
lot of
address
people-
something with
Go ahead.
me,
I'll say I'll think a lot.
and I'm
Not-
like, are you
not
talking
being-
about me?
Not being direct, but I read something online, and it was just like sometimes when people go to serve God, they forget that the intention is to save souls, not to be the best, not to have the biggest podcast, not to have the biggest whatever, the best
Bank
Instagram
account or-
presence, best
yeah.
bank account. The purpose is to save souls. So there might be somebody out there we never heard of, but he saved way more souls than whoever's the biggest out there in terms of
whatever you want to
podcasting,
talk
or
about,
whatever-
yeah.
whatever it is, right? But you have to remember what is actually at stake here. It's not about notoriety. It's not about fame. It's not about any of that stuff. And I'm sure those things will eventually come for us down the line. I'm sure this will end up being the number one Christian podcast in the world at one point. I'm sure of it. But that's not the point. The point is to save souls.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think that us as Christians, because we can get elevated into that celebrity status where you see that in with Hillsong Worship and stuff like that, and Carl Lentz and all that stuff, we can forget the whole point of what we were doing this for in the first place, or the whole point of serving God in the first place, and that's to save souls. So go out, baptize other people, and preach the gospel, and make disciples of other people. That's it, right? So I think it's a slippery slope that you can operate on. But I'm glad that we've stayed humble so far on episode 10, and praise be to God that we've just stayed on the path up until this point. And I pray that we can continue to do that, because some people, they give up. They give up on the journey.
Yeah,
So
true.
yep. But what Nick was talking about not the other day, I think it was this morning, right? To not give up. It's not too late, right?
Never too late.
It's never too late, and to not. My rendition of what he said. I always,
So what you said.
I always have to add my spice on it. But it's never too late. It's never too late to try. It's never too late to switch it up. And I always say there's no dress rehearsals to life, but that doesn't mean you can't improv along the way, right? I think sometimes when I would think of that quote, no dress rehearsals to life, like I need to make the most of it. I need to make the right decisions. You know what I mean? Or I need to go after it.
Well, how do you know what the right decision is? You never
don't.
really know truly what
Right.
the right decision you're supposed to be on is. But again, that's where faith comes in, and trusting and believing that that voice that's in your head is God and your heart, and he's telling you to walk in this path, and asking him for that guidance. Because there's been times where I'm just like, I'm not sure what my exact purpose and divine calling is. But I think as long as I just, continue to walk in what I feel is God telling me to do, that's all that I really, can do. And it isn't at the end of the day what I've just come to learn, coming in full circle. Back to episode 1. Remember what it was called? Just go for it already. So, I mean, here we are in episode 10, like after just going for it for, 10 different times. And, mainly me just fearing the criticism and fearing what people are going to think. And I mean, at this point, I'm now just like, whatever. I still care, but at least it's easier for me to tune it out and know that it, again, like you're talking about, what am I doing this for? It isn't to make me some famous influencer. Like, I'm not about that. That's not a desire in my heart to do that or be that. I really don't care for TikTok and Instagram all that much, but it's to mainly, again, talk about what we feel God has put in our hearts to talk about, and that's really it.
Yep.
And just share his word in ways that we're learning and understanding it to be.
Yeah. And hopefully somebody out there gets touched by it. I mean, we have listeners in Japan and Germany and the Netherlands. So
Cool.
our voice is reaching, is what I'm trying to say. Our voice is reaching out there, and we're not doing this for nothing. God's word is getting out there all over the world.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're doing a good thing. I think that's what I want to reassure myself to.
Okay, great.
Is that we're doing a good thing, because it's so easy, especially for me, to look at other people, other podcasts that may have been around like a little bit longer than us, and they already have thousands and thousands and thousands of listeners and tons of sponsors and tons of followers on social media, and I look at that and I try to compare myself to that. And
but that's not your journey.
That's not my goal. That's not my mission. That's not my journey. You know what I mean? I'm not out here trying to. I'm not we're not the shade room. We're not sitting out here gossiping about other people. It's a completely different mission. There's nothing in that. You know what I mean? There's no basis in any of that stuff. And what we're doing is just something just way more significant, I believe. So
yeah.
So some people may not agree with that. I agree with that. That's my belief, right? So I thought that was really good, what Nick was saying, and it's never too late. It's never too late to go and chase your dream. So we got a lot of things that I still want to achieve in this life and do in this life and go after. So tell me, how has that phrase just changed everything for you? Because I know in the beginning, well, not in the beginning, but most of your life, you really haven't been able to kind of just do your own thing, whether that's just been under your parents' thumb, or under a business's thumb, or whatever, or working a terrible sales jobs and stuff like that a majority of your life. And now, literally starting since January, you've really been able to kind of step into who you are and really figure out who you are.
I don't think I'm there yet.
Right.
I think it's still like a journey that I'm,
no
continuing on.
It's like yoga.
Do you ever just have like really good thoughts, but you don't know how to like put them into words? There's like podcasts I listen to, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was literally thinking about that the other day. Like I should totally talk about that with Roman on the next podcast. And then like, I just never know how to like re-put it back into good words, but it's good thoughts. Has that ever happened to you? Anyways.
Yeah. Try it.
That's kind of how I feel. Like, I don't know. For me, it was, like you said, it was like living an entire life for another person. And I could name all the people I've lived my life for. There's hundreds of thousands, because it's like there was a different person almost every day, whether it was a teacher, whether it was a friend I was meeting with that day, whether it was with, and it's almost like, I don't want to say being fake, but yeah, kind of being fake, because I wanted to make sure that I was pleasing that person and they were happy with me and they weren't ever like disappointed. That's why I've always hated having birthday parties. I don't know if I told you this. Like, I hate having birthday parties for myself. And if I ever do have like a birthday party, it is only with like family. I will never have like friends over. I didn't like that. As I got older, when I was a little girl, my mom's like, you had the biggest birthday parties. I was like, well, I was little. I don't remember. But it's because I'm always so worried of like making sure everyone's having fun and everyone likes it, and no one's like thinking in their head of like, wow, this is so lame or this is boring. Like that, literally, like I can watch it in people's face and it hurts me a lot. So it's like, yeah, there's been so many people that I've like lived my life for. And even today, like I'm sometimes like, I still need to be the best in, you know, one of my workout classes and make sure that everyone around me likes me. And like, you know what I mean? And so it's been like almost in a way, like, I guess you could, some people are like, well, that's great. It's good that you are always trying to like be a positive person in other people's lives and you're always trying to uplift and encourage. But it also, like, for me, can be very draining and almost detrimental because I never feel like I can be the complete vulnerable side of myself. You know what I mean? And so like for this year, it's been like weird because I feel like sometimes I feel like progression and then I feel like I'm going backwards again. And then I feel like, oh, I'm getting better at this.
Yep.
Like I'm so good, like reached my peak.
The
And then
journey
I'm
of the
like, oh,
entrepreneur.
let me go all the way back. And like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And like, I'm back into people pleasing. So I think it's just, I think because I've been doing it my whole life, it's going to be one of the hardest things for me to overcome. And I know I couldn't do it on my own, you know, and I think that's really important. That why I love like that book so much, why it's been helping me like understand like
How
God's
not
word.
to save the world.
Yes,
Right.
because I am always trying to save the world,
Right.
trying to save everyone's world.
Right.
I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to save my dog. I'm trying to save the
Right.
person next to me at cycling class when it's their first time. I'm trying to save, you know, someone that's next to me in a grocery line. I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to do too much. And it's just, I'm always get so tired and drained because that isn't my job.
Right. Right.
And my job is not to come on this earth and please everybody
And heal everyone.
and heal
save
everyone. Yeah.
That was someone else's job.
Yeah, Jesus. Because he's the one who can do that. He can handle all of that
Bingo.
weight.
Bingo.
Me, yeah, not so much.
Right. Bingo. He came the first time, he's coming a second time to finish the job. So it's true. We get caught up in that. So tell me, what are, if somebody is, you know, say that they're listening to this and they're suffering from similar things that you are, what were some of the things that helped you break free from those strongholds? Because that's what they really are, right? The Bible calls them strongholds in your life, these things that have kind of trapped you,
Mm-hmm.
and put you in bondage into a name that's not even yours, right?
Mhm.
What were some of the things that you did?
I feel like it was with a lot of like your help. So I feel like you would know like the answer of that too. Is just literally just doing it already. Like for one of them, for example, was like my job. That was like such a huge stronghold and completely broke me. I never once wanted to get into a career of sales, but I had to in order to like financially survive at the time in life that I was in and fund a business that I was building at that time. And I hated it. I got so depressed day after day. Remember, I used to send you like text messages of like almost down to the point of like, dare I say, suicidal. Like I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. It was so depressing, like working in those careers. And I just felt like almost stuck. And I mean, being in that industry, I mean, if any of you guys have ever been in sales, like I was the youngest one working in it. And there was so many
Every
people
time.
who's in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they just cycle through different sales jobs. And it's almost like they can't almost ever get out of it. You know, it's like once you're in sales, you're in sales. You got to stay in it. And that's how I felt. And I was like, I can't leave this job. I can't quit. And I remember that one day when I was like on the couch and I was just crying, and it was like 11 a.m. Like I just got into work a couple hours ago.
She worked from home.
I worked at home, yeah. And I went into the living room and I was crying, bawling my eyes out. And this was like the first time you saw it because you weren't working.
I typically never used to see.
You never used to see it. You would just see my
Right.
text messages because
Right.
we never worked
Right.
together. And you were also
We worked
working at
together
home
for a second, yeah, for like maybe
a
3
month,
months.
like maybe a month and a half.
Yeah. And we were both working at home together.
And
And that was the first time ever seeing it. And I think that broke me.
because after that day,
Yeah.
you said just quit.
Yeah.
Because remember, I tried to quit. I think
didn't- I didn't realize how severe it was until I saw it in person.
yeah.
So, like, fellas out there, as much as you think your wife loves working,
I mean, there are some
she
girls,
is-
I guess,
no,
who love
no,
it.
no. Fellas,
Controversial.
fellas, as much as you think your wife loves working, that is a lie and that is big cap.
I thought I did. See, I was all about like being
independent
a
woman,
boss babe and
make your own
independent
money.
and hustle and
That's not
grind
it.
and making
No.
big, huge commission checks. And at the end of the day, like, I didn't care for it as much as I cared about like my own mental sanity.
Right.
And so, yeah, after that day, you told me to just quit. And so when I went to my boss, still crying, saying I want to quit, remember, I ended up having to stay an extra 30 days, regardless of the fact I ended up leaving. They got me. They got me to stay an extra 30 days. But anyways, but me finally leaving that after 5-6 years of like feeling so stuck in that was one way I just broke the stronghold of just like actually doing something. So I guess it's action. Another one of being in, you know, the business that we were building before. And I remember I cried, same thing. I cried to you saying like, I can't do it. I can't leave this. I can't drop this business. Like I'm stuck. I'm stuck here. There's no way I could ever get out. What will anyone ever think of me? Right. And I was like breaking down, like having a panic attack about this. And you were like, yes, you can. And I said, oh, okay. And I wrote down, I was like, okay, this is my last day of ever deciding to choose to continue building this business that's not working. And so that was another stronghold I was able to do.
I think sometimes we put the handcuffs on ourselves too, man.
I think it was mainly me. I mean, as much as I'd love to blame, you know, the job, the business, the people in my life, I mean, it was really me allowing it all to happen, you know?
Yeah.
I just was never, I guess, honestly, like strong enough to put a boundary there and say like, no, because like I was saying before, like I want to save the world. I want to be the best salesperson. I wanted to be the best in this business. I wanted to be.
I think it's less so saving the world. I think it's more so just pleasing people.
Yeah.
And trying to protect this image that you
of
think
yourself.
that you have.
Yeah.
But you don't.
Right.
This non-existent image that you think you're preserving.
Right.
That does not exist.
Exactly. And that you also have personal power. Remember you told me that? Like that one time, I remember it so vividly. Like we were furniture shopping and I got a message from someone that I just didn't want to be around anymore. And she was like, hey, like, let's get together. What's your schedule? And instantly I was like, oh gosh, like, what am I going to think? Or what am I going to say when we meet up? Like, where should we meet up? And I was already like planning it. I haven't even messaged her back or anything. And I told you, and you were like, you don't have to go. You know that, right?
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay.
You don't have to do anything against your will, and anything that you do not want to. And you do not have to explain that to anybody. And you can be truthful and you can tell the truth and say that I do not want to go. You don't have to come up with any types of lies or anything like that. Like, oh, my parents are coming into town or this and that. Some sort of excuse. You can just say, I do not want to go. Thank you, though. I appreciate you reaching out to me and wanting to ask me to spend time with me. This is a tip. I appreciate you, but I don't want to do that. Thank you.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
That personal power that you're taking back into your own hands instead of giving it for everyone in your life to control.
Yeah.
You're finally like, I think that's what it was for me. Like you were saying, like what advice could you give is take that personal power back in your own hands and do that action that you feel like you cannot do. And that's, I truly felt like not that I wasn't willing,
I think
not
that's
that
normal,
I
though.
truly felt that I could not. It was impossible for me to make any of those decisions.
Yep.
You know, like
I think there's a good portion of America that feels the way that you feel.
And it's because you can look back. I mean, obviously I'm talking about these situations and it sounds so dumb. Like, yeah, you could quit your job. Yeah, you can leave a situation, a friendship, a business. Yeah, whatever. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, if you work at McDonald's.
But I mean, honestly, even then, I'm sure there's situations where people feel like they can't. So it's like, true. It's just, it feels dumb for me to like almost look back and say that. But in the moment, you give it so much of a power in your life that you feel like you can't. Or I feel like then the enemy defeats you with like worry of what if. And if you do that, then what? And all these consequences that you feel like would happen.
If you leave this business, then what? There's no other business.
You quit this job, you're going to be broke and homeless. You know what I mean?
Right. You quit this job like you don't serve, the Lord of our lords.
Exactly.
The God of all gods.
And
you know what I mean? Like,
you just got to put your trust in faith and, stop depending on your own understanding. Lean not on your own understanding.
Right. He feeds the birds. He'll
Seek
feed
his will
you.
in all that you do.
Yep. So
I mean, what about you? I mean, what do you think? I know you always have great advice, but I mean, just like, what do you feel like it's been in your life? You know?
yeah, I think the main thing that I've been leaning on is that you can always go back and fix it if you want. You know, I think I said this earlier. It was just like, yeah, there's no dress rehearsals to life, but you can always just go back. Like if it doesn't end up working out, you can go back. You can fix it. And I think I've started operating my life on that because I think I myself have literally lived my whole entire life thinking that every decision that I would make is going to be permanent.
Like
and it
what?
was going to have these circumstances were going to be put on it that couldn't be undone. If I stopped building this business that I had already put 6 years into it, I would never be successful. I'd never start another business. I would just keep quitting businesses over and over, or there wouldn't be a business as good as the one that I was doing. Or if I moved to a different state, that would be it. I could never come back to Vegas. You know what I mean? Or if I changed professions, that would be it. I could never go back and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes I myself would think that, and that would box myself in. And that's what I meant by sometimes we put the handcuffs on ourselves and we point at the warden. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, yeah, that person may have had authority over that situation. Yeah, your boss may have had authority over a situation, but you put the handcuffs on.
True.
You know what I mean? And there's no greater prison in the world is a prison that you know the exit and you know how to get out, but you choose not to.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Right. So that was my thing.
Right.
And I think I'm growing now. I'm still growing out of that, and just knowing that I can take risk and I can try things and I can do different things all the time. And as long as you have somebody on your side that is on the same page, I think a man and a woman with God behind them is unstoppable.
That's right. Amen to that.
Amen. But yeah, I guess we can wrap up here. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 10.
Thank you to
the
anyone
Look
who
Up Pod.
has listened to every single
Absolutely.
episode. Maybe there's only one of you out there. I don't know, but we appreciate all
That's
of the
all that
support.
matters.
Can't believe it's been 10 episodes. It's like
Right.
kind of wild and surreal.
Right. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Is the one person that is listening, if they are. But no, we know more than one person is listening. We got hundreds of downloads on the podcast, which we're very blessed for. So hopefully we can keep bringing content like this to you guys that you guys enjoy, and hopefully this is a drive on the way home or into work that's a little bit comforting, right? So,
That's right. So thank you. If you
Yep.
haven't yet found our Instagram and TikTok, please follow that at the Look Up Pod. Leave a review on our podcast if you'd like. That really does help out too for people to like discover it and stuff.
right.
Yeah. Thank you guys. We love you, and we will see you next week.
What do we
and we
name the
always
podcast
I was thinking about that as I said, see you next week. Why don't you end it?
What is it? Psalms.
Let's see if you got it. If not, I guess we're gonna just have awkward silences until you remember.
Psalms 121 verses. What's the verses?
Do you know it?
Psalms 121 verses.
How about you say it?
You say it.
You say it.
Verses what?
1 through 2.
1 through 2. I lift my eyes up to the mountain. Why? Where does my help come from? Where does it come from?
Where is it coming?
The maker of heaven and earth, guys. We love you.
Bye.
Have an awesome week.